Hi, how are you? Welcome to my kitchen. Today, I'm really excited because the whole place is covered with fish, but it doesn't smell like fish. That is to say, I've purchased everything very fresh. And that's the way it should be. No matter where you live in the country, if you're careful, you can find a good fresh fish market. And the things that I want to cook to you today may appear a little flamboyant, but they're not. They're basic dishes from other cultures and one from our own. Dishes you'll love, because fish is one of my favorite foods, but you have to buy it fresh. And there's some basic rules for that. Joe, how do you tell whether or not a fish is really fresh?
Okay, number one is the appearance is your first thing. Eye appeal.
Eye?
You got your coloring, where it's nice and clear. It's not tainted. Your eyes are protruding.
Bulging.
Bulging.
Got it? Okay.
Right? Inside.
These haven't been cleaned.
Oh, they've been, yeah.
Oh, they have. I see.
But it's, you see, the bones are, the fish is in contact. If the fish was broke down, the bones would be
sticking out?
popping, right?
I see.
It's nice and firm.
Okay.
You've got the nice color. Yes. You look in the gills.
What do you look for?
They're not brown.
Oh, I see. Very red.
And no
very
odor.
bright. No odor. A
Right.
fish shouldn't smell like fish, huh?
It smells like fish, but it's not an offensive.
Yes, I got you.
Right.
I got you. This is a red snapper, right?
Florida red snapper.
All right. I want to use him for making ceviche. Have you ever made ceviche?
No, I haven't.
Raw fish salad?
No.
It's a classic from Mexico. I want to take something and go back to the kitchen right away. This dish you're going to love. Thanks, Joe, very much. Fresh indeed. Isn't he gorgeous? This is the one I'm going to use to make a ceviche. This is a red snapper. And this big fat rascal is a buffalo fish. I've never cooked such a thing, but today we're going to have fun doing them. First of all, however, I need to, before I do the ceviche, this raw fish salad, don't go away, sit down. Raw fish salad from Mexico is a beautiful thing. It's kind of pickled in lime juice, very fresh lime juice, so it'll have a good flavor for you, and it won't taste fishy at all. But you have to have the fresh fish, otherwise it'll be fishy, and nobody likes fishy anything. However, in order to get started today, I want to do a French fisherman's stew from the southern part of France, from Marseille, really. And this dish is called a bouillabaisse. And you've heard about it in restaurants, and it costs something like $15 a bowl on the menu. Calm down. Make your own. You'll have much better time. It's very easy. In a 12-quart pot, I'm going to put a half a cup of olive oil. Yes, you can substitute other oils, but you know the olive oil is very important for flavor. So half a cup of olive oil. And I want to add about 3 chopped green onions, big fat ones. Yellow onions, not green ones. Yellow onions. I want to cook these down. 1, 2, that's about 3, isn't it? 3 nice onions, huh? And we need some leeks. And leeks, you remember, are a large onion. They look very much like a green onion, you see. But they're all related, of course. We're just going to chop these up. You don't have to do a lot of work on this dish in terms of preparation. It simply takes some time and some good vegetables. Into the pot they go. Beautiful leeks. They have a nice flavor, a little stronger than a regular green onion. And now we need some tomatoes. And I hate to tell you, but I have the same trouble with tomatoes that you have. If you're smart, you'll buy them ahead of time and leave them sitting on your windowsill so that they'll ripen. But these just look awful. They're just not very ripe at all, and that's my fault because I wasn't ready for it. Notice I'm not even coring these. I'm not squeezing any juice out. I'm not doing a thing. I'm simply going to whack them up very quickly and put them in the pot. Maybe I'd better tell you why I'm doing this, because I'm going to strain everything out. So I don't have to worry about what's in the pot. Pits, peels, anything but mud. Mud you can't put up with. So 4, 5, 6 tomatoes if they're small. These were small, so I'm putting in 6, you see? And we'll give that a toss here. That's looking very good. We're going to do fine here. We'll simmer that for a while. Let's put in the rest of our items here. The last thing we want to add to this first stage in the bouillabaisse, yellow onions, 3 or 4 small ones, 3 big ones. We want to use 4 or 5 leeks. We want to add about 6 small tomatoes, 5 big ones, ripe if you can, and 1 entire head of garlic. Now, when I say a head of garlic, I don't mean a clove, dear heart. I mean a head of garlic. And put the whole works in here. Just chop it up like so. You see? Want to cut it right through the center so that each clove will be exposed. Garlic is marvelous. Healing, blessings. And just use the peel and all. Remember the method here. I'm going to put this in the pot for you. The method here is simple. We're going to strain everything out of the pot. So don't worry about peels and that sort of thing. And yes, this is how they do it in southern France. There we are. Now, while that's simmering for about 10 minutes, we're not going to have time to do all of that right now, but Simmer this for about 10 minutes or until the vegetables are soft. You see? Isn't that a marvelous sound? You know, it bothers me to come into a kitchen and see a weenie wink cooker, an electric hamburger cooker, and a microwave just sitting there all going, This is what I like. I like the sound of a pot going, because you can put a lot more love into a pot like this than you can into a weenie wink cooker, I promise you. There, that's my own prejudice, but for me it's reality. Let's put together some herbs now for our dish, and I'm going to put them on a plate first so that you can see everything. Into our pot we will later add, after the 10 minutes, you see, we'll later add a head of parsley. Here it is. Got our parsley right here. These are our herbs and spices, so we want a head of parsley. You don't have to chop it up or anything. A couple of bay leaves, and we'll lay these out in a platter. Buy good bay leaves. You shouldn't buy that. Now, let's see. Now, that's a good size one. We'll put in 4 because these are kind of small. I don't want to do that. Buy good herbs and spices. It's important. And I use whole stuff generally. I don't like to use herbs that have been pre-ground for 2 reasons. 1, they're not fresh, and 2, I don't know what they put in them. I want about a teaspoon of whole thyme. There we are. That's a little more than a teaspoon, but that's always the case with me. And I want some fennel. Fennel whole in a whole seed is beautiful stuff, you see? Give me about a half tablespoon of fennel, maybe a shot more. I love fennel. I can't get enough fennel. If you are wealthy or if you're committed to this, you can add saffron. That's a classic dish from southern France, but I'm not going to bother with it because I can't afford it. That's all there is to it. I don't want to bother. And I don't really need it. I want a couple pieces of orange peel. I'm just going to take the peel right off the outside of the old orange. 3 chunks perhaps. That will go in with our herbs and spices. I want lots and lots of pepper, a shot of Tabasco, and finally some whole coriander seed. What did I do with him here? Now I can't find my whole ones. I'll use some powdered coriander. I have some here somewhere. Well, that's the usual day. We'll use some powdered coriander. There he is. Here it is. Now I find my coriander. See the difference? Whole coriander. Don't feel bad. That's okay. I can have both in here. See the little coriander seed? Looks like a bunch of little ball bearings, and they're just delicious. That's a very interesting Mediterranean spice. So that will go into our pot now after it's cooked for about 10 or 15 minutes. Let's check things out here. Make sure we're not going to burn the place out. Oh, it's doing fine. So in we go with all of our herbs and spices that we've mixed up. Now remember, we've missed the salt and pepper. Now be gentle on the salt because we're going to make a soup stock out of this, and we can always add salt later if you need it. But otherwise, knock off the salt. We generally put in too much. But pepper, it's impossible to put in too much pepper. I'll stand here and grind for about half an hour, but otherwise you pepper to your own taste, will you? And we'll simmer that for a bit, and then add the good part. And the good part consists of heads and bones that we got from our fishmonger. Please be sure these things are fresh. For a fish soup stock, this bouillabaisse, you see, you need some stock material. And I have a bunch of heads and some backs and some bones and some skin and some tails that I picked up from my fish man. He shouldn't charge you any more than about 2 bits a pound for this stuff. If he's a nice fellow, he won't charge you a thing. I have a friend who saw me make bouillabaisse once for a meal, and she came into the kitchen just as I was doing this, putting the heads in the pot. She went into the front room, sat down with her husband, gave him a hug and a kiss, and said, "I won't eat dinner." Oh, why not? After all, bouillabaisse is a lovely thing, and there's nothing wrong with a fish head. We're going to eat the fish eventually. You see, we're going to use his body in one way. We'll add it to the soup later on. At the moment, we're going to make stock out of the head and the tail, and everything will be strained out. You won't see this. Now, to the pot, we're going to add 3½ quarts of water. How many heads and things I have? I had about 5 pounds, 3 or 4, 5 pounds, whatever you can get your hands on, you see. And then we're going to add about 3½ quarts of water. I have this all measured out. 3½ quarts of water. And we'll let that simmer now for about an hour. And then strain out everything. And when you strain out everything, by that, everything you goes and everything you throw away, you'll wind up with a stock. We're going to trade kettles here on you. You wind up with a stock that is simply gorgeous. It's very, very rich. By the way, mine is nice and red, you see, because I added some tomato paste. Those tomatoes I got at the market yesterday were just really, really flat. They were a poor excuse for a vegetable. So I added just a shot of tomato paste, a couple of tablespoons. And so the bouillabaisse is now ready. Let's bring it to a boil. You would make this ahead of time. You can make it a day ahead of time if you like. And store the stock in your refrigerator. You understand what I've done now? Saute the vegetables in the pot. Then I've added the herbs and spices. And I threw in the heads and tails. 3½ quarts of water. And simmered that for about an hour. Strained everything off. And I have just a lovely, lovely batch of beautiful bouillabaisse stock. Now, what do you do to make bouillabaisse? Well, you can store the stock a day or two in your refrigerator, and then at the last minute, put it on the stove, bring it to a simmer. And when it's simmering, you can begin to throw in anything you can reach at the fish market, anything you would like, but don't use fish that's going to fall apart quickly. And try and time your fish. For instance, I found some clams. These things are just gigantic. In Seattle, we don't use clams quite this big. We would grind these up for chowder, but I'm going to try and cook a few of these and just see what they're going to be like. So let's throw these in the bottom of the pot. That should be enough. For a meal for 4 or 5 people, you see, these are awfully big clams. Let me change burners here. I'm going to move things around so I can get my biggest heat on. When I'm cooking bouillabaisse, I don't want to fool around. I want some real heat, and I want some real action. Now, this will be a little bit quicker. Okay, now the clams are going to take us a few minutes to cook, so let's decide what else we want to put in there. In front of you, you see, I have some buffalo fish. I've never tried buffalo fish in a bouillabaisse, but I think we'll have fun with it. Here's a buffalo fish. Here's some fresh cod. I have some snapper I can use. Oh, and look at these shrimp. Aren't they gorgeous? Look at those shrimp. And, of course, I have some crab legs. We can put all of this in our pot and simply time things so that you will know how long something takes to cook, you see. Let's cut these up into large pieces. I love a good cod in bouillabaisse. That should be enough. And let's put in a few pieces of buffalo fish. The shrimp and the crab, of course, can go in later. Let's see what's happening. That's simmering well, which means the clams have already absorbed enough heat so that they're going to be cooking soon. So it's time to put our fish in, because the fish take very little time. You don't want to overcook it. Be gentle, for heaven's sakes. And we'll throw in these. Look at the shrimp. Look at the size of those critters. Good heavens. Is it all right to have a love affair with a shrimp? You know, I saw those at the market, and I went over and talked to them, and I said, I'm sorry, but you're going home with me. You can't stay here any longer. Not with these people. You belong to me. And some crab. Let me stir up that broth. Oh, so grand. These are the days when I wonder about how you and I are going to get together. You know, I have the table all set, and someday we're going to do it. But you have to call me first. I don't know where you're at. Just call me up and invite me for lunch, dinner. I can be there within 24 hours. I may show up, too. All right, we'll let that simmer for